Excellent. And we are live. Tej,
Brilliant.
this is a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah, it had to. It had to happen someday. So yeah, might as well just get over it now.
For sure. Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, Tej is a good friend of mine, mentor, and he has one of the biggest personalities, I guess, in all of India. You can tell I don't know many Indians then, clearly. But yeah, Tej is definitely somebody I look up to. Is helping me a lot learn on the back end lately in software architecture, and generally just a really good guy. And like myself, we probably drinks too many pints, and we said even while we're streaming here, we'd have a beer or two. So I expect. I know Alan is in the chat. He'd give out to you, Tej, if you don't have a beer while you're streaming as well. So,
yeah.
Cheers. Do you want to give everyone an introduction to yourself?
Yeah. So first of all,
I ruin it
for me.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin it on everyone. So I'm just going to say some horrible things or some over the top nice things. So let's see how you describe this relationship.
That's quite complicated, but yeah, I'll give it a shot. Yeah. So first of all, thanks for having me and putting your entire YouTube channel on risk. But yeah, this is potentially your last live workshop. So yeah, I really appreciate that. But yeah, all right. So yeah, about myself, I think a lot of things that Niall said, I can vouch for most of them. But yeah, other than that, just to give you a little background about who I am, my name is Tejansh. I've been working as a tech lead at version 1, which is a company based in Ireland, and I'm primarily responsible there for designing solutions and implementing them with my team. Most of my team is watching this, so thanks. And yeah, I predominantly work on Java, where I build microservices with Spring Boot, and I lead a team of front-end, back-end, and DevOps engineers. And say in the last year and a half, I've had I've led a team that has delivered 3 major greenfield projects. Bank of Ireland's digital insurance wallet, which is a microservices-based architecture. New Ireland's broker application, which was Ireland's first banking serverless application. That's where Niall and I worked together, and have to say that was one of the best experiences. And Atticus Digital's insurance wallet, which was again a microservices-based architecture. That's the one that me and my team were working on last. My expertise is kind of spread across a few domains like solution designing, backend development, and a little bit of cloud architecture. So I think over the course of my career, I've worked on a few technologies like Python, Angular, Flutter, Scala, and similar technologies. But I'm not really fluent at most of these. My strength is just Java. And I've worked for different clients in Ireland here, like Air3, SinglePoint, and O2 UK. And as you might have guessed, or I work in Ireland, but I am from India. And it's called common sense.
I thought you were just on the beach. I thought you were on the beach a lot in Ireland. Although, you might get sun twice a year here that you might not, you might actually get a tan.
Yeah. But yeah, that's me basically.
Excellent. Yeah, no, it's I think even that serverless project you mentioned was probably one of the most fun and difficult projects we've probably worked on together, because we had so many late nights.
Yeah.
I think we were a couple of the nights it was 2, 3 a.m. while we were getting that together, because it was one of the first big serverless apps delivered to a financial institute here in Ireland. So obviously we had to do it right, and because of the timelines, we had to do it fast. So that demanded tons of hours, and it led to me to learn a lot and want to learn a lot more about serverless. And getting to learn from you was unbelievably good experience as well. So I'm really excited to get you to hopefully share some of that knowledge with everyone else here.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to this. This is really exciting. I know, it's more of a geek moment, being excited about talking about serverless. But yeah, it is what it is. So it's great.
For sure. Any like if people, just before we start, in case people want to add you before you do anything disastrous, where is the best place to find you? And then we'll jump straight into your lovely presentation.
Okay. LinkedIn would be great, I think. So again, you can just look for my name. That is Tejansh space Rana. I don't know many people with the same name, so hopefully you'll just land onto my account. And I look exactly what I look like on this. Well, my profile picture is exactly what I look like in this video, because I just took that a couple of days ago based on your suggestion. So yeah, it would be easier for people to find me then. So that, and yeah I am also on Twitter.
I have your Twitter and LinkedIn in the description of the video, and if I don't, I will add it in very shortly, and then people will definitely be able to find you.
Perfect.
No excuses. You're just horrible people if you don't add him now. That's all. All right, Tej, I'll let you take it away here.
Okay.
Should I share your screen?
Yeah, go on.
What could go wrong? I'll hide myself. So
the things only go wrong with me. Yeah, that's fair enough. Let me just open my beer, because I've been told that's the way to do on yours. On
yeah, I
your
appreciate it. And you have the Irish beer full sale as well. I like to support local when I'm doing it as well.
Yes, I took that cue from you. So yeah. All right, let's get started. So,
all right.
Introduction to serverless with AWS. So, I'll just quickly go over what we are going to cover in today's workshop. So, all of us are on the same page, and see if that suits you. And if there's anything else that you want me to cover that you've been thinking about, or that you're expecting from this workshop, please leave it in the comments, and I will try to dive into that. But yeah, basically, what I'll try to cover is what is serverless, and why are companies, or why is the industry moving towards serverless applications? What are the benefits of them, and that might help you decide, is it for you? Third, we are just going to go over how can you go around, or how can you go about building a serverless application yourself? What are the different components that you need to know to build a serverless application? And we'll just go over that on a very high level. And then we'll build a web application with Niall. So Niall thankfully decided that he will help me with the front end, and he'll build the front end for whatever backend, serverless backend that I will be building, because he's great at that. So why not? And at the end, we will have some Q&A, and I think you can drop in questions as and when we go along, and I'll try to answer them as we go. But at the end, if you have any questions, something that you're still inquisitive about, something that is still not very clear to you, just leave it in the comments, and I'll try to answer them at the end. Okay, so let's get started. So this is the definition that I took from Wikipedia for a serverless application, because it is the most revised version with multiple citations. And as geeks, I think all of us know that Wikipedia is a source of truth, where other people have gone in and given their contribution. So it's better than taking my opinion or someone's opinion on what serverless is. So let's just take it from the experts. So it might seem a little chunky, but I'll just go with it. Serverless computing is a cloud. Serverless computing is a cloud computing execution model in which the cloud provider runs the server and dynamically manages the allocation of machine resources. Pricing is based on the actual amount of resources consumed by an application rather than on pre-purchase units of capacity. It can be a form of utility computing. So it's quite chunky, and there are too many buzzwords in there for you to just wrap your head around. So let's just focus on what are the important things here. So let's break it down into the buzz or the important words. Cloud computing execution model. So for you to have a serverless application, or for you to build a serverless application, one of the core requirements, or one of the most important things, is that this has to be a cloud computing execution model. So what I basically mean by that is, whatever you're building needs to be hosted in an infrastructure which is provided by a cloud provider like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Oracle, or any of them. So it cannot be an on-premise application, which is one of the most important requirements, I would say. And for those of you who are not very familiar with the whole on-premise or the terminology, or what is an on-premise application. It basically means that, so before cloud computing came into picture, which is like, say, 10, 15 years ago, the way to build an application was, it was not as simple as it is right now. So one would have to build an application. That was step one. Step two, you have to analyze what kind of traffic are you expecting. You have to forecast all of that. Next, you have to then decide what kind of memory your application would need in order to cater to the traffic that you're expecting. So the memory, the disk space, the network, and all of that. Then you would have to go out, purchase these things, maybe buy and build a server or buy a server with these capabilities, and then go to a data center and maybe talk to the data center owner or whoever is responsible for the data center. Ask them how much would they charge you for hosting your server in their data center, because to even imagine that you would have to build your own data center, it's it's a bizarre thought, to be honest. So you would have to go to them and ask them to host this. So that's how an on-premise application worked back in the day when cloud computing was when it did not exist, basically. So a lot of the companies still do that. They have legacy applications which they haven't moved to cloud, or they prefer to utilize the data center that they've built. So some of the companies still have on-premise execution model. So serverless would not work on a model like that. It has to be a cloud computing execution model. Now, the benefits of cloud computing now are that you don't have to know everything beforehand. You can have a server, deploy your application, and see how it goes. If you need to scale it up, scale it down, you can just take it from there. You don't necessarily need to know everything on day one, and you don't have to do a massive investment of buying servers and going renting it out, renting out a space from somebody else in their data center and all that. So cloud computing made that easy. Cloud computing on its own can be a different workshop altogether. So I would not go on that tangent for too long. So yeah, basically point one, it has to be a cloud computing execution model, cannot be done on premise. So next, and one of the key factors here is the allocation of machine resources is dynamically managed by the cloud provider. Now, to understand what that means, we'll just go back to the on-premise example where I was giving you the example that you need to know everything beforehand. Everything needs to be predetermined. You need to go and buy all these things, build your server, or buy a server, get it hosted somewhere. Now, imagine you expected, let's say, 1 million people to use your application, and it ended up being used by, let's say, 5 million people. So now your server is not able to handle this. So you have to go and do the whole thing again. Now you forecast again, you go and build, you go and buy a new server, you get that hosted, and so on. You understand what the cycle is, basically. In cloud computing, you again have a little bit of the overhead of still predetermining what kind of traffic you're expecting. And it's not just the traffic, other than that, what application you're hosting, what operating system do you need? You still have to scale it up, scale it down, depending on the traffic that you're expecting. Now, you don't want to be paying for using a cluster which is a little oversized for let's say the traffic that you're catering to right now. You want that to be dynamic, and that dynamic scaling is provided by the cloud provider. But you still have the overhead of maintaining things, or adding something as simple as rules around when do you want your application to scale up or scale down. So you still have this overhead, despite being in the whole cloud era. So that's where serverless comes into picture. So the way things work with serverless is, as the name suggests itself, there is no server for you to manage. You don't have to care about the operating system, the memory, disk space, and any of that. All that you really need to know when you're building a serverless application is what language would you be using. Yeah, that's that's pretty much about it. And I think that's fair enough. You kind of need to know what language you would be using before you start building your application. So there's that. Once you have your serverless application built and deployed, scaling it up, scaling it down, making it available. When is it unavailable? When is somebody's trying to reach it, the application should be available. All of this is the cloud provider's responsibility. They manage all of this, and however things work under the hood, eventually, the application is running on some server. We are aware that it's working on some server, but then all of that is a layer of abstraction for us. We don't really have to care about what is the what's happening under the hood, when whether there is a Docker container which is hosted, which is where your application is hosted, or whether you have an EC2 where your application is hosted. You don't really have to care about any of that. All that you really care about is whatever memory allocation or whatever scale that your application needs will be provided by the cloud provider. That's one great thing. It takes away that overhead altogether. Now, having said that, it's only fair that if the cloud provider is managing the resources, the pricing is based on the actual amount of resources consumed, and that's the last point. So let's try to understand this with a very practical example. Let's say you build an application and it's sitting there 6 months and you see no traffic. Your application would basically be sitting there consuming nothing. When your application is doing nothing, it should not be consuming anything. So basically that's how things work. And if it's not consuming any machine resources, you're not paying anything at all. So your pricing is entirely dependent on when the resources are consumed. So like I was saying, if for 6 months you get no hits at all, no one consumed your application at all, you're paying no money. But at the end of 6 months, let's say one user pops up and makes a request, the application will still be available for them. Now, again, it is the cloud provider's responsibility how they manage this, how they make it available when there's a request made, and all of that. It is their responsibility, not yours. So that is that's pretty sweet. And so at the end of, let's say, 7 months, you have, let's say, 10,000 or 50,000 people using your application. Now you start getting billed for whatever resources your application consumed in order to cater to these this particular traffic. So that's basically that's basically how it works. So just for a quick recap, what is serverless? It is a cloud computing execution model. So cannot be on premise, has to be on cloud. Second, the machine resources are dynamically allocated by the cloud provider. You don't have to worry about that. And third, you only pay for what you use. So these are the highlights of what you have to take away from this. So we'll move on to why is everyone moving towards it. So I think a lot of these points would already be covered in the definition or the example or the explanation that I was trying to give there. But I'll just go over them exclusively as well, so that I can highlight the benefits as well. So I think you only pay for what you use. It's just amazing, and a lot of the times what happens is people build applications, but then the overhead of maintaining that application just money wise or just monetarily, that not seeing any traffic, you don't want to be paying bills for just keeping your application alive when you have no traffic, just hoping that maybe somebody will come and use it. Maybe you have those 2 users who use it like every week or so. You don't want to be paying a significant amount of money just for that. So you only pay for what you use. I think that makes a lot of independent developers, or just people like you and me as well, who just want to probably do a workshop or try things out. It makes it very easy for people like us. So that's one of the key benefits. You are not responsible for scaling. So like I was saying previously, with on-premise, it must have been a nightmare for people to cater for scaling, to cater to a traffic that they did not forecast. So that would have been a huge overhead. So that was first taken away by cloud computing, and auto scaling came into picture. And then you still have the overhead of keeping your application alive just to cater to certain traffic. So that was the minimum scale that you had to have just to keep your application live. So that was then taken away by serverless, where you don't need your application to be up and running. You don't need to be paying any money for any resources that you're consuming, and you have no traffic. So you're not responsible for scaling down as well as scaling up. If your application starts getting a lot of requests, let's say your API is being hit by, let's say, 10,000 different people, it's not your responsibility to maintain that scale. That's what the abstraction layer of serverless is offering. That's what it's offering you. You have just deployed your application, and the cloud provider knows that whatever resources it needs, they will have to provide it. You don't have to do anything at all there. So I think that's huge. Just to have that overhead taken away from you, that's huge. That's amazing.
I have to say, for that scaling point, it is so nice to not have to worry about Kubernetes and picking how many machines to run, and like it is unbelievably great, especially if if you're new to web development and you want an end-to-end system and you know how to write some JavaScript. You can get a really an infinitely scalable application up and running very fast.
Yeah, that's perfect. So yeah, I mean that's what I mean. Not having to do manage any scale at all. 0 to infinite, like Niall said. I think that's beautiful. The way it works, or the way cloud providers have built that. People like cloud providers like AWS or Microsoft and Google. The way they've built that, it's amazing. And as we go along, and as we build things, you will see what Niall actually meant by, if you're a JS developer and you just want to write some code and have that catering to people, you can literally do that. So yeah, you will see what we mean by this when you start building it. However, for now, I think one of the key things that I really like about serverless is also that you don't have any operational overhead. So just to give you a little perspective about a day-to-day task that most operations team have to do is they need to go log into their servers, add users, remove users, provide access to someone. Somebody has onboarded, they have to if they are a developer, they have to give them access to certain directories and whatnot, and then they have to clear disk space, maybe do OS patching. If there is a new vulnerability or something, they have to look into all of that themselves. So all of this operational overhead is taken away by serverless because, like I said, and like the name suggests, it's serverless. There is no server for you to manage. The server is just, you don't see what's happening under the hood. So you don't have to manage it. You technically cannot manage it. So, I think that's great. The next is low time to market. And I have a very corporate asterisk there, but I'll explain it. So low time to market, basically because, as if you can imagine that, at the end of this workshop, we are hoping to build an application and deploy that. And it's going to be a very simple application. But then the point here being that it is that easy to do it. And, in this particular workshop, I will be building the backend here just from my browser. I don't need to do anything else. And, it can really be that quick. The asterisk there is because, it takes a little bit of time for you to just comprehend the whole idea behind serverless and how things work. And, but once you have that, you're good to go. But that learning curve is where the asterisk, comes into picture, that you need to understand things, or, you need to learn these things before you start building. But, once you've learned it, that's it. So yeah, low time to market is great. I think, like Niall was saying, we delivered one of the first serverless projects for a financial institution, and I think we did that in a very, very short time. And again, that was because things are so simplified. When things are serverless, we didn't really have to care about a lot of the other things, or what should be our hosting system, or what should be the Docker image we would be using. Any of these things, we didn't have to worry about that. We just knew that we are just basically writing code, just going to sit somewhere and run for us. So yeah, it was just very, very, very helpful. Yeah, and finally, because it's beautiful, you will see what I mean. When we build things, at the end of this workshop, or as we go along, you can see that things are so simple. And I think one of the key things that I was told when I started my career was to keep things simple. And I think serverless does exactly that. It makes things so easy and so simple that you just see the the beauty of software development and how things work seamlessly. So there's that. Now let's see, how are we going to do this? So on the screen there, you can see a couple of things. You can on the left, you can see the clients, which in this case, in our case for today's workshop, is going to be like a web browser, or a mobile app, or whatever. Basically, we will be building a backend which can be catered to a frontend. Basically, a BFF, a backend for frontend. a backend which was built specifically for frontend. On the right, you can see a couple of things. You see Cognito there. Now, Cognito is a managed service for authentication, authorization, and all of that provided by AWS. And your client can interact directly with Cognito. It doesn't have to go through the application, and I think that's exactly how things should be kept. Your application should be responsible for doing its own job. It's one job, and your user, your authentication or your authorization provider like Cognito should only be responsible for doing that one job. That's authentication or authorization or user management or all of that. So your client here can actually interact with Cognito directly. You don't really have to go through the application or anything. So there's that. Just below that, sorry, before I move on, actually, let me just give you, a few features. Let me just tell you about a few features of Cognito. So first of all, it's a managed service. So everything that you see on screen here are managed services. The benefit of that, most importantly, you're not managing anything yourself. You don't have any licensing fee or stuff like that in this particular case, and everything that you see here was built for production. None of these things are like a scaled down version, or none of these things are a version with with fewer features because it's a non-production environment or anything like that. Like everything here was built for production. So what you see in your non-prod environment would be exactly the same in your production environment. So that's one of the key benefits. And and the way I think a few libraries were built to integrate with Cognito, I think it's seamless. Like I have we've used Cognito in a couple of projects, and we'll be using this today as well. And I think Niall will probably show you how easy it is to integrate with that. So that's great. Moving on to the application that you see just under that dotted line, we will take a bottom-up approach here, and let's talk about the database that we'll be using. That's DynamoDB. Now, DynamoDB is a fully managed NoSQL database. So for those of you who are not familiar with NoSQL databases, NoSQL databases are databases where to put it in very simple terms, you have a table. That table is completely independent. It is not related with another table at all. So everything that all the data that this particular table holds is not directly related with any other data in any other tables. So if you've worked with SQL at all, you must have come across foreign keys and relationships between tables and stuff like that. DynamoDB has none of that. So yeah, it is quite simple. And when while we're setting it up, you'll actually see that it is quite straightforward to use as well. So I think the name itself, NoSQL, kind of explains that it is everything but SQL. So it's basically no relationship between tables and no views and none of that. So every table is independent, and the kind of data that it can hold, it's mostly key value pairs and documents. So you can have key value pairs, and you can have like a full JSON being stored there, and it's very easy to configure as well. Now, Amazon claims that DynamoDB can handle like 10 trillion requests per day, and can support peaks of more than like 20 million requests per second. And they also claim that all these requests would be responded to or delivered in like single-digit milliseconds. So basically, all requests that go to Dynamo will be responded to in less than 10 milliseconds, which is great. Like you would not see any latency there, and that is great. So that's about DynamoDB. So moving on to Lambda. Now, just to give you like a very high level idea of what Lambda is, like for us, this is going to be the core of our application, the heart of our application. All the business logic or whatever logic or whatever application that you're really building is going to sit in Lambda. Now, I think a lot of you might have come across buzzwords like fast or function as a service and all of that. They are basically referring to Lambda, and there are a lot of these fancy terms that people use to promote Lambda, and like it is great. So you will see how beneficial it is to use Lambda, and like Lambda is not just used for backend APIs or something. It can be used for like a plethora of things. It can be used for building like an Alexa skill. It can be used for a cron job, or it can be used for like a custom service which is responsible for sending you like a hello world email every morning, if you're into that kind of stuff. So and this is basically your runtime, or this is basically your application, whether you're writing your code in Python, JavaScript, C Sharp, Ruby, or whatever at all, or all of that will be in Lambda. And yeah, it's basically your runtime, to put it in very, very simple terms. Yeah, with a lot of capabilities. Now, on top of that, you see an API gateway. And API gateway is exactly what the name suggests. It is the gateway to your APIs. So now let's say you have, you're building a backend in Lambda, or, you are building a backend in, let's say, a Docker container that you're, hosting on an EC2, or, whatever, really. You can basically expose these APIs via the API gateway. Now, whether you are creating resources, or you're creating, methods like, get, post, put, delete, all of that can be done just via the console. Just basically just via the console, and you can configure all that in the API gateway. Now, API gateway is actually capable of doing a lot more things than that. It is capable of doing things like throttling. Throttling is basically, it's where you, let's say, for example, if you have one API which you're expecting a lot of traffic for, it could be something as simple as, get something. And, you would know that everyone is going to be using that API. So, you can throttle the requests to that API and say that I want to be serving, let's say, 10,000 requests per second for that, to that API. And API gateway will manage that for you. Now, it is also capable of doing, like adding authorization in API gateway. So like you see here, what we're going to be building is going to be exactly this. So, we will have a Lambda, and we will have that exposed via an API gateway, and the authorization for that Lambda will sit in API gateway. So the Lambda would know that, when something is hitting it, when it's receiving a request, it has been authorized, or, whatever needs to be done for, whoever should be consuming are the only ones consuming that Lambda. So that responsibility will be taken away from Lambda, and that's exactly what we want. So yeah, API gateway can do that as well for you. It can do a lot more things, and it can also add like a private as well as a like a public API. If you have a few private APIs that you want only a handful of people that belong to, let's say, that holding a certain IP addresses that have been whitelisted by you to be able to reach that API, you can manage all of that in API gateway. So it's a very, very powerful tool, or like a package. It does everything for you. You don't really need to go any beyond that. So yeah, that's great. So yeah, and this is how the whole thing is going to tie in together. Your clients will be able to reach Cognito to create a user, basically to register themselves, and then to log in and authenticate themselves, which will then return a token. Using that token, they can make a request to your application, which is basically will be sitting in Lambda and interacting with DynamoDB, and that application will be hosted via the API gateway. And this API gateway will then be, it will authorize, it will basically validate the token that your client is sending to make sure that the user is basically authorized, and they have an active session. So yeah, the API gateway will do that for us.
Quick one. Actually, two people in the chat said,
yeah,
slow down, calm down, relax. You obviously haven't drank enough. That's all. No, there is, and Colin is asking, did you set off his fire alarm for some reason? God knows. I think he's probably drank too much. So it's here trying to get the Goldilocks portion. Super tons of information here. And I'd even say, and Niall Mulready says, Mulready, as I always like to say, just to annoy him, is saying there's only one speed, survive. But I'd just like to see, does anyone have any questions at the moment? I just think one thing that might have been left out, and this might not be clear yet, and it will become clear when you jump into the building of this, is that the Lambdas are runtime and can basically, you can write any programming language in there. So even though we'll see some Python this evening, it's whatever language we want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's perfect. And yeah, like although you said we will be seeing some Python, I really hope I remember some Python. Like I am definitely not fluent at Python, so you're going to see a lot of compilation errors and be like, what is he writing? So you just be prepared for all of that.
Yeah, and so then a quick question before we move on.
Yeah.
So the client goes to Cognito and asks for auth, and then you get the token, and then you can access API gateway. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Perfect. Excellent.
Yeah. So
right,
yeah, and just to clarify that when you access API gateway, API gateway is in turn interacting with Lambda. Like API gateway, as as I was saying, it's only the gateway. On its own, it does not hold a functionality, to return anything to you. Although that is also quite possible. But that's a different tangent to go in altogether. Yeah, if your API gateway will be talking to your Lambda, which will have all the logic. If you're trying to get something, it will get that for you from Dynamo, and then return it via the API gateway. So yeah, that's exactly how it will work.
And on a side note, I nearly missed this in the chat. I was asking where's Larry in the chat, and Aisling says he is also watching you the stream as well. So
yeah.
He's probably eating tons of chicken to make sure he's kept quiet.
Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah, Larry is my super smart puppy, and at the end of this, I really hope he picks up some Python because it's not my thing. I hope he writes some Python now.
All right, excellent. And AWS doesn't support MongoDB, I think. I know for a fact that you can put anything, you can Dockerize anything and throw it into AWS. So you can have any database instance you want up there. Mm-hmm. And Michael Dalton was asking you to write your Lambdas in Node.js, but that's just because he wants to see you fall on your face, I think.
I mean, I can technically just do that in Python, like fall in my face. So you're going to see that anyway. At least I might do it gracefully while doing it in Python.
And then one last thing, loads of questions coming in now. I'm glad we took this little pause. Would you I'm going to pin this to the screen as well. Would you consider auth O or auth 0 over Cognito?
That's quite interesting. So, to be honest, I have very, very little experience with auth 0, but then the people who have worked with both auth 0 and Cognito, like I have colleagues, who have worked with both of them, and they prefer auth 0 over Cognito. So again, I don't have enough experience of auth 0, so I cannot choose one. But like working with Cognito has been, quite simple for me. So I don't really see a reason to move away from it. But again, when I experience or when I explore more of auth 0, I might change my mind.
Auth 0, I have to say, from using both, auth 0 will give you more flexibility and more features, but that's their entire service. So Cognito is also a simpler, in my opinion anyway, a simpler API to get started and get things up and running, and just generally an easier tool to get a production grade app up and running. Now, if I have any auth 0 people, they'll probably, if that's their experience, they'll probably get up and running with auth 0 just as fast. But I think when you're using the AWS ecosystem and things like API gateway and able to protect resources by roles and things in Cognito, it creates a phenomenal, secure experience that you just cannot get without massive amounts of work outside of Cognito, really.
Yeah, and I think like you said, it's the whole ecosystem. So like I've been working predominantly with AWS. I haven't explored other cloud providers like the cloud services from Microsoft or Google. But then they might have services similar to Cognito, which would be maybe just as easy. Or or if you're building something outside of AWS, you might actually just choose auth 0 over Cognito because if you don't want the whole package, if you're not experiencing the whole package, I would not see a particular benefit of just using Cognito. I would want the whole environment or the the whole ecosystem, or maybe nothing, or I'll just move to a different ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you'll see later as well when we start to wire up the front end to this. Like, I think it's like, other than the configuration, which is like 3 lines, I think it's like 5 lines of code, and I have a fully authenticated app. So it's ridiculously easy to get a front end secure with it as well. But one last thing then is I have Subhash, and I apologize if I'm butchering your name. He says, is serverless suitable for small business looking from a budget perspective?
Yeah, definitely. Like, like, it is specifically the best for them. It could be small businesses, or, like just like independent developers exploring something.
I think.
I think, the beauty of it is that you are, like I was saying, you're only paying for what you're using. And with small businesses, specifically, on a small budget or something, they don't want to, keep an application up and running, hoping somebody's going to use it. They only want to be paying their bills when somebody is using their application. So, they have revenue coming in, and, they are, paying their bills from that revenue instead of constantly paying money and hoping that, someday somebody is going to use their application. So, yeah, definitely.
Excellent. All right. I'll start. We'll take more questions in a few minutes. I'll let you crack on with the next slide, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so that's how you can go about building an application. I hope I'm slow enough. This is me in speed 1, okay? So.
No, it's okay. No, absolutely. I think it's just pause every so often just to make sure people can ask questions. I think.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I think that's really just so. I think nobody asked questions until we had a pause there. So I'll also interject just to make sure we have some question time, because this is such an interesting, cool topic that there's definitely going to be questions.
Yeah, definitely. And, this is basically my first workshop, so I think it's going pretty well. Like, people have questions that I've answered, so I think that's a win.
And I'm shocked. I'm shocked we've gotten how many minutes in? We're 42 minutes in, and things are not on fire, Tej.
Oh yeah,
this is
definitely.
This is definitely a new record for us working together without some sort of disaster happening.
That is so true.
All right.
Yeah, but like, anyway, we have Larry on hold here, so when things start going badly, we'll just show his face and be like, "Yeah, look, he's cute. Come on." So.
Exactly.
All right. So, we've discussed, what is serverless, why are people moving towards serverless, and how can you build your serverless application. So, I think it's about time we build one. That is that beautiful front end with blue, white, and I'm calling it gray. I think it is gray. Colin might answer that better, but yeah, that is. That is something which Niall is going to be building, and I think he has most of it ready. And I will be building the APIs for this application. It's a very, very simple to-do application where anyone who is logged in can add to a list of tasks and retrieve it again from the tasks. And it has just 2 features basically, to add tasks and to retrieve tasks. And you need to be just authenticated to be able to use this use this application or consume these APIs. So yeah, let's get started.
I wish you could see my screen, because I just said I better load up the front end. I just says failed to compile. So I'm going to go off screen for a few minutes and try and fix this.
Okay.
You stopped sharing your screen. Are you getting something new out?
Yeah.
Excellent.
So,
what broke? This is a great. This is always the way.
Yeah, just my browser this time, so it's okay. It's not too bad. No. Okay, so Niall, I did something which you advised against. I have a new, fresh AWS account that I'm going to be using to build this thing. So yeah, this is where things go on a downhill. So yeah, you prepared for this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. Could you zoom in a little bit on the console there as well, just so anyone that's on a small screen can see?
That better?
Yeah, it should be good there. If we're too close or anything else, people in the chat can let us know, and we'll move from there.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we are going to be building this, with a bottom-up approach. I generally prefer doing things this way. I try to build, the last component or the lowermost component first, and then build things from there. So in this case, we're going to be configuring the database first. So let's create a table. Now, creating a table in Dynamo is just as easy as this. So let's call this a Codú to-do table. We'll add an ID as a partition key or a primary key. So basically, this is going to be our identifier. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be anything very meaningful. It could just be a UUID, which you're using as a partition key or as a primary key, so that you can differentiate between two different rows, basically, or two different rows, basically. So let's get this started with. So just going to leave everything as is. Okay, there we go. You do not have required role to enable auto-scaling by default. Okay, so what I need to do first is give myself access to do everything. And if this starts getting really bad, I'm just going to switch to my other account and not be so brave. And start.
No, it's going off tangents. These are great bugs to see, because these are the kind of bugs that people will get straight away, because you have a new account here. So this is exactly what people will have to do to set this up.
Yeah. So yeah, that's fair. So that's just the user I'm creating for just for programmatic access, and I'm going to show you why we need this as well. Attach existing policy. So this is going to be my root user, so like my administrative user. So I'm going to give it access to everything. So it has basically administrator access. So I can do everything from this user. I don't need any tags. I'm just going to create a user. Okay, that's perfect. So I am going to stop sharing for a second, and I will just copy my keys. So these are the keys that I will have to configure locally.
There was also a question in chat earlier I forgot to ask, because I think it was from Colin and I didn't take it seriously, but I'm sure plenty of people want to know. How do you get your hair to stay up?
Not that difficult, really. You just don't take a shower every day. You accumulate a lot of sweat and then it stays up. That's it.
For sure,
no,
yeah.
No, but like seriously, just blow dry it. That's it. It really works.
Looking after your hair. That's where everyone goes wrong. So I'm going to swap, like when we're going back on the screen, just Subhash has asked, could we have the screen bigger and Tejansh smaller, basically, just so Tejansh smaller, so we can have, see it. So I'll probably myself just be checking and switching between views so we can see more of the screen and what's going on.
Yeah.
I hope I can fix this by the time you catch up with me. Okay. Yeah, I fixed it. It's fine.
Okay.
It's all up to you to win now. So what are you working on now, Tej, off screen? Just getting your keys set up?
Yeah. I am basically adding my keys. When you create an account, you get an access key and a secret key. You can configure this in your .credentials file, which is in an AWS directory. I'll show you all of that. It's just that once I'm finished configuring it, I can basically, I can show you where the file is and what you really need to configure.
Yeah. I'm going to try and get this here. Beautiful. What was the fix? I'm going to push up the fix. Basically on line 66, if anyone has the front end again, I forgot to actually call the prevent default function. I think I can take out that entire line because I swapped it from a submit button to a button. But I didn't have all that much time to prepare the front end this week, so I just did both. So something will work. Hack it together. How could it go wrong? Clearly. I wonder, can I share? I'm going to start sharing mine as well, screen 2. So you can see here I'll zoom in. If you've gotten the front end from let me get the link here. I'll put it in for any newcomers here. I should probably put it into the description now after this. Hold on. It won't let me share the link. Okay, let me put it in this way. That will let me. Okay, so we have the link in the chat there to the repo, and that's my front end. And you'll see on line 66, I had it like this. I just declared prevent default, and obviously that broke everything. So yeah, if you just call that function, I'm going to check in a minute. I think I can just do this. It should probably still work the same. So you can probably get rid of that line. Let's try it out. Because is your old backend still up and running?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Test. Yeah, we get to. It's working fine with that. So I'm going to just delete that line. We don't need it at all. So git that. -m fixes or remove prevent default. Oh, hold on. Am I in something here? Why is that doing weird things to me? Oh, I mean the server is running. That's why. Git add dot git commit -m removes prevent default. If I could spell. Default. Oh, this is why I wish there was like a spell checker in the command line. If anyone hasn't seen the video that I did on fuck the command line tool, it's amazing. It really saves a lot of time when you're messing around and misspell because it auto corrects a lot of stuff. Git push. So that change should be up there now. So if anyone's grabbing it now, they'll have the latest changes, or you can pull the latest changes there now. Believe it or not, I fixed this a while ago. I actually did this like 2 days ago. Yeah, pushing directly to master. Well, Colin, I would rather push to master than have you review my code, to be fair, this time. Yeah, bad practices, but if I'm going to review my own code, I might as well just throw it up there so people can get it. It was already broken because I previously pushed to master. So, how are you getting on there?
I still had issues with my account, so I'm just trying this one thing here. I can actually just share my screen and debug with you guys now, whenever you're done.
Okay. Yeah, cool. We have that's the front end here anyway for anyone that's interested. I'm going to, do you want to share your screen there again? Because you removed the sharing, and I'll add you in. Paul says more cans.
Fair enough.
Could you zoom in? I'm going to make the screen full screen here anyway, so it'll be what you see, hopefully, as well.
Okay, perfect. So Yeah, so what I did was I logged out of this account, of the other account, and I tried to, sorry, the first thing that I did was I created a user there, this user. Now this is the other account. So using this user, I tried to create the DynamoDB table, but that still kept failing. So I just logged into the other account to check, what did I do differently there? And I'm trying to see if there is anything different. So no, it is exactly the same. It still has administrator access. There is a user, and I am logged in. So, okay, let me just sign out and log in again to that account and see if things are any different. And I've enabled MFA on this account, which is, always highly recommended. Although this is like my playground account, I still try to kind of follow the best practices just to be sure that, I get into the habit of doing this every time I do it, every time I create an account or whatever. But yeah, that's me basically. So yeah, I'm logging back into the IAM management console.
And it's just so, like I said, this is connected to your credit card. So if somebody started messing with it, it could cost you a lot of money. So have MFA is probably just a better practice, full stop.
Yeah. So it is, again, administrator access to my user. And
the perks of live coding.
Okay, I do not have the required rule for enabling auto-scaling. Okay, by default, okay.
So just, I suppose, don't auto-scale?
Probably, yeah. Okay. Did I miss something? Nope. Oh, okay. So, authorize you to scale capacity using the following role. Okay, let's have the instructions.
Are you using Brave?
I am, yeah.
No, just somebody was asking in the chat. It wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, so Brave is a browser made by Brendan Eich, the creator of JavaScript as well. Hence why Tej is dying to do some Node.js in the Lambdas.
Okay. There is the ID. Nope. The AWS Access ID needs a subscription for the service.
Okay, I think you're going to have to jump into the other one. Did you use your credit card on this? Maybe that's why.
I did, but then things are, everything was, the account is all set up, so I don't know. I'm definitely missing something, so let's just take a second here. Subscription required, request ID. Okay. So yeah, okay. Anyway, I don't think should spend any more time on this. Yeah, nope. Gonna give up on this account and move to the other account. So should have taken your advice the first time.
No, it's good to see it. Sometimes, Juan says to just put in your credit card details now.
Yeah.
Maybe just the account isn't confirmed or something, because it seems like a very bizarre.
Yeah. And
like your root account should always have access to these things.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never seen an issue like that. I just made a DynamoDB thing yesterday to mess around with this as well.
Yeah, unless AWS changed something overnight, and they are quite nasty like that. They do things like that. But anyway, I don't know what happened. Anyway, let's move on here, and you might see that I already have a few things here. So I'm anyway going to create a new for the workshop. Okay. So yeah, you can see that I already have a Codú to-do table here. So I'm not allowed to make that. The names need to be unique. So great. Okay. So I again have, you do not have required role to enable auto scaling. Please refer
Did
to
they change
documentation.
something overnight?
Really hope not. Auto scaling permission are required to delete an auto scaling enable table.
Okay, add that permission, I guess.
I have administrative permissions here, so this is bizarre. Anyway,
I'm guessing if they changed this last night, which they potentially did,
yeah,
it might not be automatically added on to existing roles.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. Let's try this.
And this is actually just a testament to how quickly like AWS does change a lot, and it can feel a bit much, and yeah.
So yeah, just trying to attach a new policy to this user. Okay, so I have it both now. Okay, anyway, so I still don't. So okay, let's just read this for a second. So this is asking me to sign into console. Yeah, okay. Choose users, and then choose your IAM user from the list on the summary page. Choose add permissions. Choose, yep, that's exactly what I did.
Could you zoom in? What's that say?
Can you read that out right now?
Yeah, the Amazon DB, yeah, the DynamoDB full access. Strange.
Okay, let me try to. I don't remember the CLI commands very well, so I'm just going to look up AWS CLI create DynamoDB. Okay. Yep. So it says, no. Create table. Okay.
So the nice part about AWS as well is that they have this CLI and CloudFormation. There is like 3 or 4 different ways you can actually achieve setting up a database on AWS.
Yeah. And like ideally the right way or the most preferred way for doing this is using the CLI tool, or even better, using CloudFormation, where you basically, CloudFormation is basically infrastructure as a code. You have everything written in code, basically all that you want to set up, and then once you run that, that will CloudFormation stack will basically build all the infrastructure components that you basically need. Now that is the better way of doing things. So let's follow the JSON syntax here. Index name, okay. So going to bring up another screen here and paste this. So index name can be ID. And office, I don't think I do.
So what are you doing right now?
What I'm trying to do is, so I took the JSON syntax of creating a table.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am basically trying to create a table using CLI.
Okay.
Yeah. So I could also just try something as simple as creating. Yeah, it's this. So I have a screen here. So I have a few. See that this is where I was setting up my keys originally. Let me share my screen. So under users, you will see your user. In there, you will see your .aws directory, where you have two files called config and credentials. Your credentials are basically your access key and your secret key, and you can put them in credentials. And then you have your config, where you define your default region and stuff like that, and your profile name. So if you have multiple accounts and you're interacting with if you're using multiple accounts for, let's say, different environments or different accounts, you can give each account a name or each profile a name and then use that profile. So yeah, I was just adding keys here. They are added, so I cannot open them. But yeah.
Yeah, and they automatically get added in if you say AWS login. You can log in with your account and you can get those keys added in.
Yeah. Just verifying if everything is in place here. Okay, things look okay. Now, so I am going to, I'm looking for a file where I have a few commands listed. I don't remember all the commands, and it's practically useful to just have all the commands written somewhere instead of having to go on the browser and look for it every time. So yeah, I'm just gonna look for that now.
I hope that's your master password for everything that you have on the screen now.
That is actually kind of useless information right now, so that's okay.
I've got his Netflix login. Excellent.
Okay, so I have that file here, and can you see this okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is AWS, and that's the CLI. Hyphen profile is the profile that I'll be using, which has access pretty much to everything. So I am going to look at the commands again. So it basically says create table. So okay, let's try create table. Do I not need to mention that I want to create a table using Dynamo? Just look at a few examples. Yeah, I do.
Smart. I would have never got that. They're like, table me.
So okay, let's copy a few things. That's the table name. It says attribute definitions. So
you need a key, a primary key ID, isn't that it?
Yeah.
That's the only thing you always need on a DynamoDB.
Yeah, exactly. So these are that's the name by attribute type. S they mean string. Likewise, song title is another attribute, and they mean the attribute type, which is again a string. Key schema. Okay, attribute name is equals to alt is just basically the key. The key type is hash, and attribute names are. I think I'm I think the other attributes. Okay, so just gonna try this. Oops. Yeah, attribute definitions. So name, that's ID, and attribute type is string, and key schema, attribute name. Okay, see if that works. Parameter validation field, missing parameter and key schema 0 key type. Okay, I missed the key type. Key schema expected second received none for input attribute. Oh. Do I need a key type here? Yeah, okay. That's string. What it should be. So error passing parameter key schema expected second. That makes no sense to me.
Colin is saying, is it because there's no space or no space?
Yeah, I think he's right. Start the one. The creatable operation, one or more parameters. When valid read capacity units and write capacity units must be specified when billing mode is provisioned. Okay. Let's do that.
I'm also logging into my AWS account to see if I see the same messaging now.
Yeah. Oh, that worked, I think. So that was a great cue. Thanks, Colin. Oh yeah, that worked. Brilliant.
Okay, so that command, can you just open that command again, just real quick, or yeah, like I said, so that's from the DynamoDB docs. You've logged in with the AWS CLI and you put this up. In fact, I think this is a much easier way. I know it might be weird for people if they're not used to CLI, but it's a lot less daunting because you're not messing around with settings and hoping you click the right things. You have exactly what you needed, done.
Yep, and I think it's also a more sophisticated way of doing things, where you have everything configured on your local machine, so you have control over what profile you're using, and like here the profile that I'm using is serverless root, and that has administrator access. Now you might just decide to have a serverless root account which has access to, let's say, only Dynamo and Lambda and API gateway, so that that's and Cognito. So these are the only 4 things that your profile would be interacting with, so you don't mess things up. I think that kind of helps as well.
Yeah, I have the exact same warning as you, and I also have another messaging that says the new DynamoDB console is available. So yes,
okay,
they did decide to change this last night. So sorry about, and just for anyone that's been tuning in, yeah, this is one of the things. Amazon moves fast, and as a result, sometimes things break. But here you go. That's now you know why.
Yeah, that's that. I feel so much better.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, sorry, yeah, that is the Codú to-do workshop, basically. That's the table. I have another Codú to-do table and Codú users. So things that I was messing around with to be sure that, we have something working at the end of this workshop. So hopefully we will. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to quickly create some, some random value so that we can see it working, when we do a get. So this could just be, let's actually just create a, UUID generator. So let's just create a UUID so that we have, a fresh value. Okay. and a
you're
value.
sophisticated. I usually just put in like 1.
So maybe prepare for the workshop. That would have definitely helped. So yeah, we have one task in there. And next, so that was, I think, the bottommost layer that I was talking about in the bottom-up approach, where we start with the database, move on to Lambda, API gateway, and Cognito. So we have the database done now. So we will move on to Lambda. We will basically be creating 2 APIs, a get and a post. Get to basically get all the tasks from the table, and a post to add new tasks to the table. So again, doing nothing fancy. I would not be adding any validation on the input request coming in. If it contains anything extra, I will take it. If it contains, and if it does not contain what I want, I will fail disgracefully. So that's not the way to do things. Like you should be adding validation to everything. Server-side validation is what holds the integrity of your application. So you should be doing that for sure. So yeah, I'm just not doing that because it can very quickly get very complicated, and I don't want to make this too complicated. So yeah, let's move on to the Lambda.
Fingers crossed they didn't change Lambda yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, worst case, we have these APIs, so something should work at the end of this. But yeah,
I think that's it's like I said, like it is the fun part about seeing it live. You're going to see what really goes on, when we try to build things, and even the validation side of things. I suppose even like that's just one of those things you have to do a lot of reading on separate of this. That's just becoming a good back-end developer, really, with code hygiene and security.
Yeah, I think I recently had a tweet, with a random meme. Just talking about, I think, server-side validation. And yeah, I think that's the one tweet which got the most retweets, 3 retweets, which is, again, not great, but, it's better than nothing. So,
could you zoom in here?
Right, sorry. Yeah.
Perfect.
So I'm creating a function, and I have options to, author from scratch, use a blueprint, or browse serverless app repository. So I'll talk about each one of them. Author from scratch is where, you just want a blank Lambda, and, you want to basically put everything in it yourself. Use a blueprint is where, you have like, configuration. Oops. I accidentally clicked something. Yeah, anyway, sorry. Use a blueprint is, where you build a Lambda application from sample code, and, all the configuration and everything is present in that. Again, it is a good practice to use some of these, just so that you're not reinventing the wheel. If you can see that somebody has solved this problem already, you need to solve it all together, yourself, unless you're learning like we are. So that's when you do everything from scratch. You also have the serverless app repository, where, like, let's just take a look at this. You will see there are a lot of public applications and private applications. So if you look at this, you can see Alexa skill, sample hello world application. You have, again, Alexa skill. So yeah, microservice, endpoint, data, log forwarder. So a lot of sample applications that you can look at, and just use one of those Lambdas instead of writing one yourself. So again, very handy to just go to the repository and fetch one from there. Anyway, we will be try and write one from scratch. So this will be, again, a Codú to-do workshop, and I will be using Python. Permissions, I'm just going to leave it to default roles, and I will add permissions as and when need be. So I'll create a function. Should not take too long, unless, like Niall said, something has changed again. Okay, things look okay here. So,
huzzah! Yes, something went smoothly.
Yes. Okay, cool. So here you can see basically 3 different tabs: configuration, permissions, and monitoring. So we will actually be going through each one of them. Let's start with the configuration. You also see something called layers here. That is another topic maybe I would say it's a little bit advanced from what we're doing right now. That is where, let's say you're using a third-party library, or you've built your own library which is going to be used by multiple lambdas. So you just want to be able to import and use it everywhere instead of putting it in each lambda. You can put that in layers. So again, a different topic altogether. We can talk about it later. Or if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat, and I think Juan can answer them because he has worked extensively with layers, and that's what we were using when we were building the serverless application. So yeah. Anyway, let's go to the Lambda. So this is the default Lambda function that they provide, and you can see there's a Lambda handler, and just a JSON being imported returns 200, and just a JSON dump of hello from Lambda. What we will be doing here instead is, we will just import Boto3, which is the AWS library to interact with any, or I think most of their services. So I'm just going to import Boto3, and in the implementation, there are a couple of things that we will need to do here. One, I need to get a resource from Boto3 that can interact with DynamoDB. So that will be, as simple as get a Boto3 resource. And there are two parameters that I need to pass here. One is the resource that I need. What I need here is a resource for interacting with DynamoDB. And so that's the first parameter. And second is from what region. So like you can see here, actually, there are multiple regions that, that AWS offers. And like it's actually, that can be an extensive talk, but I don't want to, go on that tangent. But then basically AWS offers their services in multiple regions. Like I am, currently in Ireland, so I'm using that. And then you can see there is US East, there are two actually US East zones. And then you have US West, you have Africa, Asia, Canada, Europe, Middle East, South America. And depending on, where you are, you might want to choose a zone or, a region closest to you so that you have least latency. Now, if I am in Ireland and if I'm trying to choose, let's say, an Australian server maybe, or Africa, or, even US or Asia. So these are the physical geographical locations, and this is the kind of thing which can affect your latency. You don't want your application to be hosted in Asia, whereas your users are in Europe, because that's going to basically just bring in a lot of latency, which you don't want. So that is why I have Ireland, and you can see next to Ireland, it's EU West 1. So each region is allocated another name as such. So this is EU West 1, and that's my second parameter. That's EU West 1. So I am going to call this DynamoDB. So that's my region. That's my resource. Now, what I basically want to do here is, I want to get everything from DynamoDB. So I am basically going to access a table first. That's the table that I had created after struggling for quite some time. So you can see Codú to do workshop, and that's this table. That's this table basically, Codú to do workshop. And when I say DynamoDB.table, all that I'm saying is all the actions that I will do as part of this using this object here will be interacting with Codú to do workshop. So if I want to get something, I don't have to specify what table am I getting from. All that I have to say is I need to get I want to get everything, or I want to get something from a table, and it already knows that it needs to get everything from the Codú to do workshop table because I've mentioned it here. So is that. Now the easiest way to get everything from a table is just to do a scan. So I'm going to do that, and this should return data to me. So I have everything being returned here, and JSON dumps. I can just do data. So what this will basically do is it will return everything from the table as part of the response. Now, one thing to note here is when I am returning data, it's not just going to be the data itself, but there's also going to be a lot of metadata being returned as part of this response. But for step one, I just want to get everything, and then from whatever this guy is returning here, I want to just filter out what I want to return. So let's see what this guy returns here, and then we can basically filter out what we need and redeploy the Lambda. And it's pretty easy to do that, so I'm not too concerned. All right, that is what I have in my configuration, just the Lambda itself. This is done. Next, I want to check my permissions. So see, it has permissions to CloudWatch logs, which is basically that when I'm running an application, I want it to log everything that's going on. So CloudWatch logs is the logging service basically from AWS, where whatever the application does is logged into CloudWatch. Now that is something which is available by default, but I am going to look at the the document role, or I am actually just going to change the execution role. So the name here, when you create a Lambda, if you remember, what I did was, in my first step, I took everything as default. So it allocated this CloudWatch logs role to my Lambda. Now, if you go here, you can see it has that AWS basic execution role. So for a Lambda to run and just throw out some logs, it needs access to CloudWatch logs. But apart from that, we also want it to have access to DynamoDB. So it can get everything. So it can basically perform whatever we wanted to perform from Dynamo. In this case, we wanted to read something, but I'm just going to give it full access for now. Again, not a good practice. You should only be giving read-only access. But just for now, I want to give it full access and see how things go. If things go well, I'm going to change it to read-only access and still see if it's if it's working. Okay, so this is attached now. So I should be able to refresh this. Okay, it has actions to this and Dynamo. So okay, cool. Now I'm just going to look at monitoring. So like I was saying, it has access to CloudWatch logs. So if I click on this, I should be able to see, like right now, I would not see any log groups because I haven't run the application yet. So yeah, log group does not exist. So that's perfect. Okay, cool. So we have the configuration. We have the code here. I'm just going to deploy this now. So deployment package is successfully saved. Okay, that's good. Before I actually create the second API, what I want to do is I want to move on to the API gateway and see if I can hit this API all right. So if I can, then I know that this is what I want to, this is what I have to do again to, get maybe a post API. So let's try that. Can I have too many tabs open? So I'm just going to go to API gateway. So you can see I already have two APIs here. This is, what if nothing works, we have this. I'm going to be creating a new API here. Since these are REST APIs, I'm just going to be creating a REST API in the API gateway. Now, this is the new API. I want to build it from scratch. I'm just going to call it. And this is a regional endpoint. There is edge optimized and private. So like I was saying, you can have private or public APIs. So for now, I'm not going to go into too much details of what are regional and what are edge optimized. It's actually a very AWS specific or cloud specific term. So yeah, I don't want to just give in too much information which will confuse you. So yeah, I'll just continue here. So yeah, I basically have an empty endpoint here. What I can do now is I can create a method. So that is a get API. So I'm just going to create a get API. Now, like a lot of you might be UI developers. I really don't understand, why it's done this way. Like I don't like that single tick and that, that cross. It's confusing. It's probably just me. It is. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going to be integrating with the Lambda function, and the Lambda region is EU West 1. Like I was saying, Ireland. The function is the name of the function that we created here. So you can still look at my tab. It's called Codú Workshop. oops, yeah. So I'm just going to type that, and it shows up. So we have that, and it's about to give API gateway permission to invoke your Lambda, and that is exactly what I want. So if you remember, we were talking about the whole architecture. We basically want the API gateway to invoke our Lambda and fetch the information, once it is made available. So we want it, we want it to have permission to invoke our Lambda function. So yeah, that's okay. That's perfect. Now, if you can see, yeah, that is the configuration. Now, before I add Cognito or any of that, I am just going to deploy this API, and I'm going to call it serverless. Cool. And I will deploy this so that the API becomes available. Now, if I click on this, I should be, can see that I have the response coming back from Dynamo. And you can see, like I was saying, it has the status code, but the body has a lot of information. It has the items, the count, scan count, response metadata. So other than the data itself, it also has a lot of metadata. We don't necessarily want all these things, so I'm just going to filter that out and only return the items. So this is the items. I'll just go back here, and I will only fetch the items. Cool. So, and I can deploy this again. So you can see how easy it is. Basically, all that I'm doing is I'm making changes on the fly in my browser and deploying it from my browser, and I should be able to see everything here. Sometimes takes a little longer. Yeah, there it is. So you see the status code and the body, the ID and the task. So yeah, that's pretty much what we wanted. That makes sense.
Do you want to send me over the URL for that so I can start wiring up the side of things? Yeah.
Yep, perfect. I'll just send that over to you. So yeah, that's perfect. So Niall, I think while you are doing that, I can just continue with the post API and get that done with. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So yeah. So yeah, we saw the get API working. So we can basically get everything from Dynamo now. Now, what we want to do is be able to post something. So let's create another function. Let's call this again. It's Codú workshop, and let's just call it post. Again, these names need to be unique, for your account basically, or for your role, or basically for your account. So that's why it does not allow me this name. It has to have something else. It could just be a hyphen or whatever, but it has to have something else. And you, as it says here, you can only use letters, numbers, hyphens, or underscores with no spaces. So yeah, I'm going to do this again in Python. I'll create a function here. And it's taking some time again to spin up. But anyway, you can see I'm just trying to start like a basic Lambda, and from there on I can add permissions as and when I need to. Like in the previous one, I knew that I have to get something from Dynamo, so I just added permissions to Dynamo. I will have to do that again, but to start with, let's just see if this works. Okay, so again, I have to do something very similar. So I'm just going to copy some code from here. Like too far. Oh, yeah, I did. Okay, so I again need a Dynamo DB resource, and that interacts with the same table. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it here. And before I forget, I'm going to import the Boto3 library so that I can actually use it. Next, what I want to do is I want to put something in the table this time. So it is as simple as table.put item. And what I would basically be doing is I'm expecting a request body sent in the post basically in the post request, and I would expect that post body to only contain a task. I don't expect that body to contain an ID, because that is something which the backend should handle. The front end should not really care about an ID or something like that. That is all that the backend should generate and store in the database. And when it's retrieving stuff, front end retrieving stuff, you can return the ID, but then you don't want front end to generate that for you. Things that the front end should not have to do, they should not be doing it, basically. So yeah, let's do this then. Now, as part of put item request, we have a few things that we need to do. So first is we need a condition expression, which is basically I'll just talk more about that. Which basically is that in what circumstances, or using what conditions do you want to put this item? Like something as simple as you want to make sure that you're not duplicating an ID. So you can just say something like attribute not exists. So, and the attribute that does not exist here is ID. Now you could also very easily decide that, okay, no, I'm sure the ID is not going to be duplicated because I will be generating that, but you also don't want the task to be duplicated. So you can just make sure that your attribute not exists checks for the task. So what this will basically do is it will go to Dynamo. Before putting an item in it, it will first check if that item already exists. In this case, if the ID already exists, like I was saying, you can very easily make that a task and see that if the task already exists. And if it does, it will just throw an error saying that, no, you wanted me to check if the attribute already exists. And it does. So, you cannot enter the same item again. So basically, it's just that. Next is the item itself that you want to push in. So this is basically going to be a JSON. So everything that you want to store in this is going to be stored as a JSON. So first is the ID. Now let's just use the Python UUID library to generate this ID. So and we're not doing something so that we are not duplicating this and just causing more trouble. UUID basically has options like creating a UUID4, or you can create a UUID using your own like you can define the length and things like that. But yeah, basically explore the UUID library. It's pretty good actually. So it comes in pretty handy in situations like this. Next, I want to add in a task. Now the event here is basically going to be my body. There are configurations that you can do in the API gateway to make sure that you get the request header along with the request body, but we don't really need that. We're not doing anything with the request, with the request headers. So I will not be going into that. I'm just going to be, using the event as the body, and from the body, I'm expecting something called task. So it can be just something as simple. So again, quick recap. We are just creating a resource to talk to DynamoDB, and we are telling DynamoDB that I just want to talk to the Codú to-do workshop table. Here we are adding, we are doing a put item, and we are checking that the attribute ID does not already exist, so that it's always unique. We are adding a JSON as item, where the ID is generated using a UUID library for Python. And the task is something that we are getting on request. So it's that simple. I'm going to leave this return, response body as is, and just take a hello from Lambda, because I could just get rid of the body and just return a status code, because that's pretty much all we need. But I'll just leave it as is, so we have a very clear way of knowing that it works if we get a hello from Lambda. So yeah, that's.
Just quick question. Just in there is, I have a question that says, is it necessary to do a JSON.dumps?
To return a JSON body? I mean, you could basically just be returning a string, but then, like you would have to get rid of the whole thing and just return, hello from Lambda. But then since we are trying to return a JSON, we are doing a JSON.dumps so that it returns, this as a valid JSON, if that makes sense.
No worries. I think that makes sense. It makes sense to me anyway. I didn't know, again, because it's Python syntax.
Yeah. So what I can also do is, once I have this working, I'll just get rid of this whole thing and just return a hello from Lambda for you to see that you can just return a string, as is. You don't really have to return something necessarily.
Excellent.
But yeah, I kind of get what you mean as well, that, can I just do this? And I think that should work too. I don't see a reason why it should not. But yeah, let's take one step at a time and see if that works. But yeah, I think that should work too. That's a valid question. So yeah, let's try this first. Okay, so permissions again, you're going to go to the role. You're going to change the role to give it access to Dynamo. And again, I cannot emphasize this enough. This is not the best practice. Don't give it full access if you don't have to. In this case, if you're you kind of have to, because you're trying to get stuff and post stuff and all that. But you're trying to put something in it, so you don't. You kind of have to. But like the previous API where you were trying to just get something, you didn't have to. So we could have just given it read access, and we will try that as well if time permits. But yeah, I think it should be okay. So yeah, let's attach that policy. We have the policy attached. Yeah, so to do workshop post role. Yeah, that's perfect. So yeah, that's the Codú to do workshop post. That's the permissions given, configuration done. We will not see anything in monitoring. So since we haven't run this yet, so I'm just going to deploy this, and that is deployed. It's really that easy. And okay, so we'll go back to the resources. We already have a get. I'm just going to create a post now.
Would you not forget to enable cores, because if we are testing this locally, it will fail.
Oh yeah.
I've tested it. It is working. I did my workaround for cores, but just to show people how they would test it locally, because that's the first problem they're going to get.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good shot. I'll do that now. So yeah, that's the integration type Lambda again. The Lambda function is Codú to do workshop post, and I'm going to save that. And yes, I want to give permission to invoke my Lambda. That's perfect. So let's just deploy this and see if it works. It's going to deploy in the same stage, that's serverless, which is basically going to create an endpoint for me. So yeah, I have this endpoint now. So let me just fire up Postman and see if I can just call it. Okay, so before I bring Postman to the main screen, let me just close a few tabs that are not relevant. Just want to have things that are necessary to be on the screen. Okay, cool. So yeah, I have Postman here. That's my serverless. Okay, and my body can be a raw JSON, and all I need is a task, and we enable course. So I remember that I have to do that. So okay, let's send that. Okay, that's perfect. That worked. So I got a hello from Lambda. Now, the easiest way to check that is I'm just going to do a get and see if I can see. Yeah, I can see prepare for the workshop, and I can see enable course. So that worked. We can now see the get and post API is working. And yeah, let me just try what I think Niall, you had asked if I need JSON.dumps. I don't think I do, so I'm just going to get rid of that. This is,
it might break my layout. technically because it's not going to come back as JSON.
Okay, let's check. Enable course and deploy API. So yeah, that works flawlessly. So that's perfect. So yeah, that's a very valid string.
Answered.
Yeah.
Yeah, problem solved. So no, short answer, no, you do not need it. It was in the template, so we were scared to take it out.
That's exactly it. Like they say, don't, if it's not broken, don't fix it. That's pretty much what I was doing there. So yeah, I have this working now. So next,
Course.
Yes, I'm going to enable course here. So
I can actually show the GET requests working from my side straight away then.
Yeah, that's perfect. So let's enable course. So I'm going to enable it for both post and GET. And if there is a 400 or a 500 being returned, I want to enable it for that as well. So, basically it handles everything. So it's going to ask me a few things if I want to do all of that. Yes, I do, because I've read this before. But yeah, there is that. Niall, do you want to just try if you are able to hit that API? I don't think you will be able to. I think I will have to, deploy this as a new stage. And it's quite weird how it works. Like every time I have to enable course, if I have an API deployed with course disabled, I just have to enable and then deploy it as a new resource. It's quite weird, but that's how I've seen it working. If anyone who's watching this have seen this working any differently, let me know, and I'm happy to try that as well. But yeah, Niall, if you want to try this. Niall, you still with me? It would be quite awkward if the host leaves.
I don't know, my internet was playing up there. Sorry, if you were asking me anything, I didn't hear you.
I was just checking if you're still there, because saying it would be quite awkward if the host left.
Yeah, sick of this one. For the first time ever, I left before the host. And Colin says it's better off without me anyway. So, but yeah, so you are going to have to change the endpoint? So
yeah, that didn't work, did it? Like just the way it was?
No, it did not. I did get a question as well, and I want to show people as well the workaround. So I'm going to show people actually cores anywhere, because I got a text when I mentioned that I used a workaround, and that got somebody curious. So I'm just going to show my screen real quick.
Go on.
This is, if I can zoom in. No, I'm zooming in on our stream screen. So there's this little app called Cores Anywhere. So if you ever get Cores issues, you can go onto Cores Anywhere. Literally just Google Cores Anywhere. It's the first thing. And when I jump into my app, like here, you'll notice I'm getting an error here saying Cores isn't working. And before, to make sure it was the Cores issue that was throwing it, what you can do is literally in front of your request, or I'll put it up here in the GET. I can put Cores Anywhere, and I jump back, and if I refresh, you'll see I have my two calls should be back in. Yeah, there. Deploy API, prepare for workshop, enable Cores. So it's a nice little workaround if you are having those issues while testing, because let's be fair, when we go to production, we tend to not want to have that enabled. We want our servers to only be able to talk to each other.
Yeah. Or, just enabled, not with a wildcard, but maybe, one source that you want to allow. Mostly like in you have like a different endpoint, or like a different CloudFront distribution, or basically a different domain for your front end and a slightly different domain for your APIs hosted via API gateway. If you want to enable, you just want to make sure that the APIs consuming, or the services consuming, or the clients consuming your APIs are only coming from the client or from your own client. So you can whitelist that just one client, and instead of having like, I'll just quickly show you this. You might. Okay, come on.
You can do this.
So, yeah. So when I enable cores, you see this access control allow origin is basically a star, which means anyone can consume this, any client can consume this. I could just limit this to, let's actually try this, because sure. Localhost. Niall, are you calling from 3000?
Yeah.
Okay, so localhost 3000 and enable codes, and yes, replace existing. It's still not going to work because I still have to deploy it separately, but then let's just try this. Sure, why not? And okay, so Niall, I think you will still not be able to hit this. Can you try that?
Yeah, doing it now. And yeah, cores
Okay.
anywhere, or no, cores is not working from anywhere. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, quoting that great little site.
So yeah, I'm going to deploy this again as serverless, and I think it's still not going to work. Niall, if you want to try that again.
Yeah.
Like, these are like one of the things that have annoyed me in the past, but then I never really, try to dig into what exactly stops it from working the first time, and why do I have to deploy it as a new resource every time. So I'll show you.
We'll ask Fabio next time we're talking to him. I
Yes.
think he's the man too.
Absolutely. I actually found something in the AWS documentation which said that it may not work always. And that was quite interesting. Yeah, I'll actually just share that after I actually get this working. So let's deploy this. Let's see if enable course. And yes, I'm going to leave it as a start for now. And enable course. Yes, replace existing. And let's deploy API. But you would notice that this time as a deployment stage, I'm choosing a new deployment stage. So I'm calling this to do. So I'm going to deploy this, and that's done. So again, I have to do post and get. Now I'm just going to send you this URL. If you want to try this, see if this works without the workaround.
Okay. I think it's actually the same URL.
Is it? Yeah, probably just a different URI. I think a different resource. I think instead of serverless, you might just have to do there. That's it.
Yeah, that's working fine. I didn't change the URL. It's just a different stage, which again is a good thing to know, because if you want to set up multiple environments and test things, it's just that easy to set up environments. Because I know that's something very scary as well. If you're not, when you're setting up production apps for clients and things, having multiple environments. So there you go. That's how easy it is to set up different environments.
Yep, there you go. Okay, if you have that working, Niall, do we have enough time for Cognito? Can we cover that?
Yeah, jump on in.
Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to create an authentication or a user group basically that can access this. You can see manage user pools and manage identity pools. So I'm going to create a user pool. Identity pool is basically what you use when you're trying to give people access to some of the AWS services. Like if you want to give somebody access to Dynamo, if they log in. So that's when you use identity pool. But we just want somebody to get access to our application. So I have two pools here. I'm going to create a new pool. Codú workshop. So yeah, just going to create that. And I'm just going to review defaults because I don't really want to change much. But I do want to add an app client. And when I say I'm adding an app client, all that it really means is I am getting, basically access to be able to, for my clients to be able to use this user pool to, either register or to, be able to log in or whatever. That's basically what I'm doing by, adding an app client. So I'm going to add this app client called Codú workshop, using the same name for everything because I am very creative. So I am going to enable admin password auth for admin APIs. Yep, sure. Username, password based authentication. Yes, we want that. Enable secure remote password. Yeah, let's allow everything. And let's say legacy, if this is recommended to prevent user existence errors. So yeah, we're going to create this app client, and the app client and secret will be available after you save this pool. We actually don't want the secret, so let's just go back. Just want an app client. Okay. So, okay, I'm just going to delete this, create a new one. So there's that. And I don't want to generate a secret key because I don't have a need to. So I'm just going to leave everything enabled. And I'm going to create an app client. So after you save, so if there is anything that I need to change, I don't think so. So I can save this. Okay. Am I missing where to save this? Okay, save this user pool, sorry. Okay, that's correct. So the user pool is the whole user pool, and that was just the app client. So I am just going to create a pool, and I have everything that I need. So that's my pool ID. I'm just going to leave it on the screen for now. I'm going to pass it to Niall here, and I'm going to destroy this anyway after I'm done. So if any of you are actually coding as you go along, you can just copy it. That's fine. You can just try accessing it. It's okay. At the end of this workshop, though, I will have to delete everything. So I'm going to do a cleanup then. That's my pool ID. And I am going to look at app clients and get an app client ID. So the two things that you need to enable a client to interact with your front end, or sorry, with your Cognito, is the app client ID and the pool ID. So that is
I'll
the
show
pool.
you in a minute that being set up on the front end.
Yeah, so I have that done. Now I am just going to, Niall, I'm just going to add that to the API gateway, to the APIs there. So, you can show it working as an authenticated user.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah. So, sorry, before I go here, I just have to create an authorizer. Now, you can have two types of authorizers. It can be a Lambda or a Cognito. There are times when you have API keys, or you're using something else, like somebody mentioned Auth0. You can basically have a Lambda which is verifying your Auth0 token against against Auth0, the token against Cognito. Now, Cognito is something which is available by default in API gateway, but if there is anything else that you want to use, like Auth0, or if you just want, you can have something as simple as you have a set of API keys available in your DynamoDB, and you want to make sure that you are verifying the API keys. You can write a simple logic to verify that API key against DynamoDB in Lambda and configure a Lambda. But we don't want to do that. We are just going to use our Cognito user pool. So we have Codú to do workshop. User pool is Codú to do workshop again. Token source, it should be in the authorized header, and or only users with valid token in the authorization header fail to fetch. That is weird. Again, that's a very weird.
I think you might have
fetch.
froze there for about 10-15 seconds.
I think I might be having some network issues. Niall, are you still able to hear me all right?
No, you froze there for. Yeah, there you go. That's all right. He is having network issues. At least that we know. That's the issue for a second. I would juggle if I could. What I'm going to show people, if it's going to take a minute anyway, is I'm going to show the front end so that we can see how that's going to hang together in a second. For when he jumps back in.
Back.
You are back. I was going to jump in and show the front end while you're doing that. Do you want to share your screen again? That got disconnected as well. Yeah, you froze for about 15 seconds there, and I was like, oh, it's probably me. So I always assume it's me that's broken. So
okay, so I have. So yeah, I basically I don't know where I left it off last, but then are you able to see my screen there?
No, because I didn't add it.
Okay.
Okay, now we can see it.
Aha,
so
this one's on you.
The thing failed, and you reckon it was a network issue, or did you try it again now?
Yeah, it was a network issue. So I just tried to create the authorizer again, and it worked. But yeah, it basically worked. So I did the exact same thing. So let me just quickly do that so you can see it working. Let's call it the same thing, and this is the you can.
Wow. Well, it doesn't like when he does that. It does not like when you do that for some reason, your internet.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something bizarre going on there. But anyway, okay, so I have an authorizer created, like I was saying. So I'm just going to go to my resources and attach that authorizer. So that, are you able to see better now? Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So authorization, yes. Okay. So again, this is another thing that I have seen happening is the authorizer doesn't show up. You know, it is here, but it doesn't show up here. Come on. So yeah, I am going to delete this and I'll recreate this. And it should show up then. It's going to delete. Sure, let's delete everything. And don't need options if I have no API. So I can delete
and that's why, like, I suppose for anyone that's worried that you'd have to do this with like a big application or something, is this is when you'd usually end up using templates and things to have these, so they'd automatically redeploy without you having to worry about these things.
Yep, that's correct. So yep, let's do this. I am still integrating with the Lambda, which is Codú to do workshop. Yes, it is. And I'm going to save this. Yes. And now I'm going to go to method request again, look at authorization, and I can see the authorizer. So that's basically how it works. You delete everything and then you start creating again, so it starts working. So it's a bit weird, but then I think, like Niall was saying, this is only a console thing. I think AWS console thing. It doesn't happen when you are doing this from either CLI or CloudFormation. But anyway, and I am going to create the post method. And okay, this is Lambda 2. So there is a post method. I'm going to save this. Yes. And then I'll add authorization there. So exactly the same thing that I did for get. Just going to go to authorization, select the authorizer, and add it. Now I have it added on both. So I am just going to enable course again because I've deleted it. So I have to do it again. Like you can see, I don't see the options, endpoint here. So that basically means you don't have course enabled. So as soon as I add this, I can see options, and I will now deploy these APIs in To-Do. That's the one which had course enabled. So let's do that. And it is done. Now it should say, oh, it is still working. Let's look at this. Sometimes needs a few seconds to actually do everything. Yep, there you go. It's unauthorized now because I am not logged in. I just tried to open this in my browser. So that's why it stopped working. And that's exactly how it should be. So,
and I tried at my end, and I'm not getting the data back anymore.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So whenever you want me to jump over and show how it's wired up?
Yeah, that's perfect. So I'm just going to stop sharing and I'll pass it over to you.
All right, I'll jump over. So what we see now on my side is we got this screen here. And it's going to be shocking. This is going to take like 2-3 minutes, and we're going to have a full authentication system on the front end, which is awesome. So you'll see in here, we have uncaught and promised, no current user. So we can't actually do anything. So what I'm going to do is go over and show you what I've set up here. You'll see by default, I'm kind of exporting with this thing called Authenticator. And all that is from an AWS Amplify package, which you can get for most things. Like you can get it for React Native. I think it's Vue, React, and just plain old JavaScript. They'll give you some UI components. So I import this with Authenticator. With Amplify as well, I can just configure up my username or user pool and user client, the two things that Tej passed over to me during the thing. I'm importing them from the environment variables because you should never store the environment variables in your repos. And then all I have to do down here is, instead of exporting the app, I'll just wrap it in a higher order function. And if I go back and I refresh my app now, we get a full sign-in process. So I'm going to go through the sign-up process. We'll go Niall Maher, and I'll put in a really secure password.
Is it password 2?
No, because you have to have a symbol and an uppercase letter. So it's password 123 4*.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. I'm sophisticated.
Yeah, clearly.
You wouldn't get that. No hacking me. Oh, actually, I have to create an account because I don't have one yet here for this. So, Niall Maher, and 3-4*. And I'll also go at Codú, and I can pick my area code because I'll get a text as well from this. This is amazing that you get all this out of the box. So Ireland area code 85700 It's my own number, which I shouldn't probably be putting on the internet. Who cares? Username cannot be empty. It's not empty. Okay. Create account. Oh, it already exists. All right. Maybe it is. Could that share the pools? I wonder.
Don't think so.
07. Create account. Come on. Let's try log in anyway.
Yeah.
I think I wrote down yesterday when I was doing this. You know me with my security, my super high-tech security.
A notebook and I think 5 sticky notes. That does it.
All right, I'm logged in. Unexpected token. So I'm getting something back that I wasn't expecting. What is that? But we aren't getting the error that we had before, at least. Mm-hmm. So I'm not getting JSON back from the get.
Okay. Do you just want to print it out and I can check if I have missed something?
Yeah, sure.
That endpoint. If you scroll further down.
That's the old one.
Yeah.
To do, but up here is to do. So that should be fine.
Yeah.
And it breaks as soon as it fetches the stuff. So get to do's is running here. Let's just console, or I'll just run debugger. And what do we have? unauthorized still. Okay,
Uh-huh.
yeah, so it's a different pool, and I don't think I can create another account here right now. But
Okay.
can you set up the old? Can you put the authorizer on the old ones? It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Look, what I'll try create a new account with a different email. Let's see if that
Yeah.
works.
Yeah. Actually, just try a full email instead of just just a name.
Yeah. The nice part is I can go back, sign out, whatever. Go back. I should be signed out. Yeah. Let's create an account. So you set a whole thing. Come. And I should have put your number in.
Haha. Too late for that.
Or Collins.
Collins. Yeah. Yeah, I think you should really do that.
So, all right, I'm getting a confirmation code. And the nice part is I just got the confirmation code. I'll even show it's there. So I even get 2-factor authorization here. And I'll put in 786497. Confirm. And I should be okay this time. And what do I get? 401.
Okay. T. Yeah, just maybe try to sign out and sign in again and see. I don't think you should be logged in when you have just registered. I think you'll have to register. I mean, you'll have to log in separately.
I'd say my local storage is doing that. I'd say it's the last session is still there.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is, can I go storage.clear? Is that the command?
I guess.
Okay, there's nothing there now. So I should be. Live debugging, but like this is an end-to-end solution here.
Yep. It's great. I think, like the whole experience of building and debugging, I think it's beautiful. I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For some reason, it does not like that endpoint.
Let me just check quickly what the endpoint is, if it has changed. I'll just.
Oh yeah, you deployed a whole new thing, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Actually, that's what it is. That's exactly what it is.
I think it's the same endpoint.
Can you share your screen so I can see?
I just sent it to you. Yeah, I can share my screen here.
Okay, one sec. Should be the same. I might just need to restart my environment. There's my API.
What I'm also going to do while you're doing that is just, check if things work for me from the CLI. So, yeah, like at the bare minimum, I should be able to, log in and authenticate and all that from the CLI. And
yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great test, I would say. So, Cognito.
Good fun. Oh, it doesn't like that now. Okay, I'm gonna try create an account again, just see if it, just in case.
Okay.
And 3 battery. And I get another verification code, so I'm guessing the account mightn't have just been set up right, that's all. And again, I shouldn't have done that so quickly, so clear that. And we will go. Yeah, it does not like that endpoint for some reason. It's not letting me log in.
Okay, let me just try that from the CLI and see if that changes anything.
Yeah, I have the old one we can hit anyway if for some reason there's a configuration issue.
Yep.
But just to walk through what's going on here. So we have with Authenticator wrapping the app. The Amplify sign out button is the stuff that kicks out the tokens. We're using Amplify configure just to configure up the setup. We get our user pool ID, our web client ID. I'm getting the session, which is the JWT here. So we can just call that in here. And we're passing that as a header. Is the authorization header the exact same? There's no bearer or anything, is there?
No. And are you using the ID token?
No, I'm using the get JWT token this time.
Can you use the ID token?
Get ID token, I think. Get ID token is not a function, so let me just check what that is. Get T token. Unauthorized. What am I getting in here?
Okay, I'm just gonna mute myself for a second. I'll be back.
Yeah, here I'll remove you for. I'll take a look at this. So we are trying to get this. So I'm just going to console.log out this, the JWT, to see where we are. I just usually use this so I can actually see what's coming out. Let's see in the console. Cognito ID, JWT token. This is the way. Should definitely be there. So we should be JWT token. Get JWT token. As you can see, we're getting all the right pieces of data through. There's probably just a small bit of misalignment somewhere. So let me have a quick look. Dun, dun, dun. Unauthorized 401. What's in the session? Check out the session. And we get in here the whole JWT. Maybe I'll pass that back and see what happens. Unauthorized, unauthorized. Of course. Let me add Tej back in here. You're muted, Tej.
Sorry, yeah. Are we looking better?
No, same thing. Unauthorized no matter what I'm throwing back in there.
Okay, let's take a quick look.
I think a lot of people are starting to drop off now. So what I will do is I'll put a fix for this in the README, or we'll put the issue attached to the video. What I will try do now is attach to your old instance.
Yeah.
That was working. And we can figure out that afterwards, not to bore people.
Yeah.
Let's restart the server. So you'll just have to nuke the two of them.
Yeah.
Response type cores. Have you enabled cores on that new endpoint?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me just create the authorizer. Okay.
Okay, no, it's the same with the old one as well. Continue that, unauthorized. No, it's actually working on the old one anyway.
Okay.
I can get rid of the debugger. So yeah, we have that. We'll figure out what the issue is with that, and we'll do it afterwards. Because basically, it's either you're to send back the JWT in the authorization headers, and we've probably got like a character misaligned ourselves. So there is you get this session object back from auth.current session, and you can get a couple of different things like the payload, the get ID token, the get JWT token. So that's what I've been working with here. What I did is I reverted to our working version just so you can see it working end to end. I'm going to remove the debugger here, wherever that is, debugger. And this is why it's always good to have a backup plan. And now when we go through it, as I said here, we have live data coming back through. Loads of data from us testing this yesterday. And it works awesome just from like the small bit of code here. As I said, you just need a user pool ID. You have to make sure you have a client ID when you're using a web app that's not server-side rendered or that. You have to have the with authenticator to get that free login really. So that wraps your function. And then when I send it to do, so I can say hello world, or I'll say worlds because I know I haven't added that yet. And if I go down, I don't think it's coming in order, but we see hello worlds here. So we know the post request is working there as well. So we got an end-to-end solution there. And now if I sign out, I won't be able to touch it again. Even if I try to, I shouldn't be able to, if the authorization was set up in the old one, do anything now when I go back in. Refresh. And you'll see I get nothing back because I don't have the authorization, even when I remove away that login. So it's not just a veil we're layering on top to make it look like we have authorization. We have full authorization here. Hence why there's that small issue now of making sure the authorization is working, because obviously these things are binary in sense. You either have access or you don't. And we are clearly not providing it the right key, so it does not like it. So that's a good thing for one extent, that it's not easy to get into your API. Obviously for debugging, it's a headache. But it's not, it's one of those things, I'm guessing it's just kind of, as Tejansh had said, it's kind of might be one of those things we might need to just refresh or wait a little while for things to kick in.
You try that again now, the old API.
The
think
old
it should work
API?
now. Yeah.
Okay, let me have a look. What did you change?
Nothing. I deleted the resources and I added them again with the same authorizer. Sorry, I deleted the authorizer. I created the same authorizer again, deleted the API and just attached it again. And I think it might work now because sometimes API gateway does really weird things. Or maybe it's, it could be the way we are doing it.
Yeah, for sure. It could be both.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay. Refreshing. Gonna close this. Hopefully there'll be no errors. It's gonna go so smoothly. Okay, sign out.
I think your username had that email address as well. You want me to check that? You can just check that in the Cognito users, because it basically lets me check everything. Yeah. No, it doesn't have your email address. So yeah, it's just Niall Joe Maher. Yeah. That's
Okay,
perfect.
so I have that, and I have do stuff. It's not working, but it's not breaking.
Yeah. Okay, that's cores. That is
cores. Excellent. That's a better error, to be fair.
Yeah.
But I'm going to use the cores anywhere here, because I don't want you to have to take that down and put it back up again.
Yeah.
And we've already discussed how I use this as a workaround to check if things are working before you have to go and do things.
Yeah. Do you want to just refresh that and see if that works?
Oh yeah, it works. There you go.
Yes.
That's your live stuff. So we're logged in. We can sign out again.
Yeah. So sorry, like when I was deploying the API again, when I said that I deleted the API and then I added the authorizer again, I did not enable core. So yeah, that's on me. Sorry.
So there you go. And look, instantly I have new data here back in. Test one, it's authorized. It's there. So that's the new thing. I don't need this. I didn't even save this, so it's not working like that. You can see that it's not saved up here. So I'll save that again. And would you do me a favor and grab Larry? And then I want to ask you a couple of questions.
Yeah, sure. Just give me a second and
Excellent.
I'll be back. Yeah.
Perfect. Because everyone wants to see Larry. Anyone that's hung around this long deserves to see Larry.
That's true.
Excellent. So for anyone that doesn't know, yeah, that's it. Clean the beers. That's the important thing as well. So for anyone that doesn't know, Tej just got a puppy very recently, and he's adorable. So I had to make sure we got him to say hello. Exactly, Colin. Unleash the puppy. So that's the main thing. Oh, we can hear the excitement already.
Hi.
Hey, Larry.
Do you see what's going on here, Larry?
No idea.
You learned something today.
Yeah. Not to create new accounts. or not to trust Amazon a day before a demo.
He doesn't care. He just wants to bite me.
Yeah, that's fair. That's all of us when you're around.
Okay, I'm gonna send him back because he just wants to bite me now. So
yeah. Go on. You put him,
okay.
You can
yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, Larry, come
yeah. Deadly. Yeah, I don't know. I think he just likes biting your beard, does he? Yeah, I think he just likes biting your beard, does he?
He does, yeah. And especially when he has not seen me for like a few hours together, he thinks the best thing to do is bite me. And that's somehow going to, just keep me back. I don't know what the logic is, but yeah.
There doesn't have to be logic.
No.
Before we wrap up, a couple questions for you. How long have you been coding for? For anyone that's wondering where you got this wizardry from.
Around 5.5 years, as a, professionally. But like before that as well, when I was in college, I did a few things here and there. Like I am basically a mechanical engineer, so it's not that, I went and I learned computer science. I went to, I did mechanical engineering, but then I did have computer science as one of the subjects in my, high school. So I did some coding then. I did some coding in school, but then professionally, yes, around 5.5 years.
Nice. And do you have any piece of advice? Like, what was the best piece of advice you ever got when you were learning to code, or that kind of helped you get to where you are now? And we're not talking about to Ireland, because although that's a great place, we're talking about you and your career. What was the best piece of advice you got?
I think there were a couple of things that people told me, when I started working. Like I had like a few really good tech leads, and they really gave me some really good advice. But then I think one thing that stuck with me, it has stuck with me for a long time, and even now, the guy said, learn, build, and deploy. And he explained each thing, like every word specifically. He said learn, because as a software developer, you are not paid for your skills. Like you're really good at Java, that's great, but then you're not really paid for that, because Java, let's say, or anything is going to become redundant eventually. Everything will, and you will have to learn new things. So learn to learn. That is the most important thing. You will only be paid, for your ability to learn and pick up new things. Build, because he said, you don't know whether what you're learning or your way of learning is right unless you're building things. When you build things, like, okay, that's exactly when what you're learning is right, or you're on the right path. And deploy, most importantly, because I think it's pretty much a given that like it's a very infamous thing that it works on my computer or it works on my machine. So he told me, don't become that developer. So deploy it in a server, see things actually working. That's when what you've learned and what you've built is correct, and that's the way to go. So yeah. And every now and then it just strikes me that learn, build, code, learn, build, deploy. Sorry, that's the way to go.
Learn, build, deploy. Yeah, I think I should have taken that advice on earlier on in my career as well, because I'm doing a lot of catching up now, trying to fill in the deploying parts and a lot of the infrastructure that I just was lucky enough to have other experts around me do. And then when I started working for myself, I had to start filling in the blanks.
Yeah.
And then I should have learned that while I had the experts around me, rather than just going, it's fine. So yeah, especially if you're in a job, I think that's great advice. Learn off the people around you as well. And like you said there, you had a couple of good tech leads, and when you meet people you like, hold on to them. That's what I did with Tej. I know there's plenty I can learn from you, and
likewise.
No, but I think there's a mutual respect there. And there's a mutual knowledge that we'll probably kill each other at some point.
Definitely.
But yeah, excellent. Any other words before we end this stream? I'm sure we went way over anyway, but I've been having fun.
This has been great fun. Like I think I really enjoy that. I think everyone here, whoever comes to your workshop, and I've seen this every time. People struggle, and I think like other people who've been on your live workshop, they've struggled. But I think there is a beauty to it. Like every time I see people debug, I just really enjoy that, because every day at work, when I am debugging, I just kind of have the imposter syndrome hitting me, that do I really know what I'm doing? But then when I see experts do the same thing, I just it just puts things back in perspective, and I absolutely love that. So yeah, I mean, specifically to you, thanks for doing this. This is great for, I think, everyone who's watching, and whoever is going to be watching after we finish this workshop. It's great that you're doing this, and just continue doing this. And this is a great community, and I absolutely love this workshop, and hopefully I'll be doing more with you.
Yeah, I definitely will be back. I don't think we've gotten blocked yet, so unless I get any weird emails tomorrow, I think we're good.
Yeah,
I might get
I really hope. Yeah.
But other than that, I should be fine.
Yeah.
All right. It was great having you, Tej.
It's great to be here.
I'll probably be talking to you again very soon, because you're probably the first person I've had online that we actually talk all the time offline. So it's awesome to have you here, and let's chat soon.
Let's chat
Thanks,
soon.
everyone.
Thanks everyone.
As I always say, happy coding.